I didn't come here looking for anything but relief. The clinic door swung shut behind me, sealing in that sharp antiseptic bite that always makes my stomach twist. My shoulders hunched tight, carrying weeks of ache from the grind. Long shifts, heavier loads, the kind of work that settles into your bones. I needed this massage to loosen the knots, to reclaim some normalcy without bearing too much. But vulnerability hung in the air like humidity before a storm. As I sank into the waiting room chair, the silence pressed in, my pulse echoing the fear of what hands might uncover. It started 3 weeks back, on a rain-slicked loading dock at the warehouse. I'd been hauling crates all morning, the cardboard heavy with damp, when my boot caught the edge. Down I went, twisting mid-fall, the concrete rushing up to meet my spine with a thud that echoed through my ribs. Pain bloomed instant and fierce, like gravel grinding under skin. I lay there for a breath, rain pattering on my jacket, before pushing up. Stubborn, always pushing through. No time for weakness in a job that doesn't wait. The days blurred after that. Nights, worst of all. I'd roll in bed, sheets tangling like restraints, each shift sending fire along my lower back. Sleep fractured into shallow dozes, broken by jolts that left me staring at the ceiling, sweat cooling on my neck. Mornings brought the grind anew, lifting, bending, ignoring the pull until it screamed. Work piled on, deadlines whispering failure if I slowed. My hands shook. Pouring coffee, my focus splintered during meetings. The pain wasn't just physical, it eroded everything, turning simple tasks into battles. Booking the appointment took days of circling the thought. I stared at my phone screen, thumb hovering over the clinic's number, dread coiling in my gut. What if they saw more than the injury? As a queer woman, I'd learned to guard my edges in places like this. Cold rooms, probing questions, the unspoken judgment in a glance. Past visits lingered like silt in a riverbed. The doctor who lingered too long on my chart, the nurse whose tone sharpened at partner instead of husband. Exposure felt like handing over keys to parts of me best kept locked. I canceled twice, deleted the app once, told myself I could tough it out. But the ache deepened, a constant throb that mocked my resolve. Desperation tipped the scale. One evening, after a shift that left me slumped against the truck, tears mixing with sweat, I dialed. The receptionist's voice was neutral, efficient, booked for the next week. Relief mixed with fresh anxiety. I craved normalcy, walking without wince, sleeping through the night, feeling my body as mine again, not a traitor. Yet the fear gnawed. What if this doctor peeled back layers I wasn't ready to show? Queer life had taught me distrust in white coats, the power they held to dismiss or dissect. I'd hidden hurts before, swallowed stories to fit the exam room's sterile script. This time, the injury demanded I step into that vulnerability, back-bared, hoping for healing without the cut of exposure. The waiting room clock ticked slow, each second amplifying the hum in my veins. Other women sat scattered, one flipping a magazine with forced calm, another rubbing her wrist, eyes distant. Their postures mirrored mine, guarded, bodies holding secrets. I shifted in the chair, the wood cool against my jeans, my mind racing through scenarios. Would the doctor be brisk, clinical, or worse? Probing, her questions veering into the personal. The air felt thick, laced with that faint chemical tang, my shoulders tensing further under an invisible weight. I breathed deep, willing calm, but the pain's echo pulsed, a reminder of why I was here. Then the nurse's voice cut through, clear and calling my name. She stood in the doorway, clipboard in hand, her smile professional but warm. I rose, legs steady despite the inner tremor, and followed her down the hall. The cool air brushed my skin, carrying me forward into whatever waited. The hallway stretched dim and narrow, fluorescent lights buzzing faint overhead, casting long shadows on the linoleum floor. The nurse's steps echoed ahead, quick and sure, while mine dragged a beat behind, the cool air raising goosebumps along my arms. It clung to my skin like a thin film, seeping through my shirt, reminding me how exposed I already felt. She led me to a small room at the end, walls painted a soft gray that did nothing to warm the space. "Change into this," she said, handing me a paper gown, her voice clipped but kind. The door clicked shut, leaving me alone with the rustle of fabric and my own breathing. I peeled off my clothes slowly, jeans sliding down legs still marked from the warehouse grit. The gown tied loose at the back, crinkling against my thighs as I moved, the paper thin and unforgiving. It scratched lightly, a constant whisper of vulnerability, my bare skin prickling in the chill. I sat on the exam table, the vinyl cover sticking to my thighs, cold, seeping up from below. My back ached sharper now, the position pulling at the bruise hidden beneath. I crossed my arms over my chest, holding myself together, the gown's edges gaping open. The room smelled of stale air and faint lavender from some hidden diffuser, meant to soothe, but only heightening my nerves. Silence settled heavy, broken only by the distant murmur of voices down the hall. My heartbeat amplified in it, thudding steady against my ribs, each pulse a countdown. I glanced at the door, half expecting it to swing open too soon, and scanned the space instead. A sink gleamed sterile in the corner, cabinets lined with jars of oils and towels folded neat. Posters on the walls spoke of posture and pain, diagrams of spines twisted like mine. But they felt distant, clinical, nothing like the raw throb I carried. I shifted, the table creaking under me and the gown rustled louder, betraying every small motion. Through the half-open blind on the window, I caught glimpses of the waiting area beyond. Other women there, scattered like I had been. One with her head bowed, fingers twisting a tissue, another staring at her phone, jaw set tight, their postures guarded, shoulders rounded in, bodies holding stories they weren't ready to tell. I wondered about theirs. A pulled muscle from lifting kids, or something deeper, like the weight of secrets pressed into flesh. As a queer woman in these spaces, I read the caution in their eyes, the way they angled away from prying gazes. It mirrored my own. The instinct to fold inward, to keep the edges blurred. What if one of them had faced this same pull, this fear of hands that knew too much? My mind raced ahead, spinning what-ifs about the doctor waiting somewhere close. Would she be older, brisk with years of routine, or younger, her touch still finding its way? I pictured strong hands, steady from practice, but what if they lingered? What if questions veered from pain to the life behind it? The power tilted wrong here, her knowledge, her role, me laid bare on the table. I'd read the codes once, in a late-night scroll after a bad visit. Boundaries firm, no crossing lines. Yet stories whispered otherwise, the rare breach that left marks deeper than bruises. My pulse quickened, heat rising despite the chill, a mix of dread and something unnamed stirring low. What if her calm unraveled me, peeled back not just muscle, but the guards I'd built so careful? Queer longing had no place here, tangled with ethics and risk. The fallout of a glance held too long. Unease built like silt, settling in still water, thickening the air around me. The imbalance pressed in, her white coat a shield, my gown a surrender. I breathed deep, trying to loosen the knot in my chest, but it only tightened, echoing the one in my back. Time stretched, the clock on the wall ticking slow, each second feeding the hum in my veins. I rubbed my arms, skin rough under my palms, grounding myself in the familiar. But the room held steady, unyielding, waiting for her to enter and tip the scale. Then the door opened, soft but sure, and her voice cut through the quiet. "Ready to start?" She stepped in, the door easing shut behind her with a soft click that sealed us in together. Tall, maybe mid-30s, her white coat hung open over a simple blouse. Sleeves rolled to her elbows, her hair pulled back in a loose knot, strands escaping like they had a mind of their own. But it was her eyes that hit me first. Calm, deep brown, meeting mine without rush, like she saw the tension I carried before I spoke it. She moved with a quiet confidence, closing the space between us in 2 steps, the air shifting with her. A faint scent trailed her, clean soap mixed with something warmer, like linen warmed by sun. "I'm Dr. Ellis," she said, extending her hand. Her voice was low, steady, the kind that settled nerves without trying too hard. I stood from the table, the gown crinkling loud in the quiet, and took her hand. The handshake was firm, her grip sure but not crushing, calluses brushing my palm, rough from work, not the soft kind from desks. They caught slightly, a reminder of hands that knew labor, that pressed into resistance daily. My skin tingled where we touched, the contact lingering a beat longer than needed, or maybe I imagined it. She released first, her eyes flicking to my chart on the counter, then back to me. "Sit if you'd like, or stay there, whatever feels comfortable." I stayed standing, arms loose at my sides, the gown's tie pulling tight across my back. The room felt smaller now, her presence filling it, the cool air warming where she stood. She leaned against the sink, casual but attentive, flipping open the folder. "Tell me about the pain. When did it start?" Her tone stayed professional even, but there was a warmth under it, pulling words from me. I swallowed, my voice catching on the first try, rough like gravel in my throat. 3 weeks ago, fell at work, twisted on concrete. The words came halting. Simple facts I rehearsed, but her nod encouraged more. She listened, head tilted slight, eyes on mine, not the paper. She asked about the fall next, details I skimmed, wet dock, heavy crate, the thud that still echoed in my dreams, and then deeper. How it disrupted sleep, work, the daily pull that turned sharp without warning. Her questions probed further than I expected, veering from muscle to how it stole focus, left me frayed. Does it radiate? Any numbness? I shook my head, but she pressed gentle, her voice dropping softer. And emotionally, does the pain change your mood, make things harder? It caught me off guard. That shift to the inside layers, like she sensed the weight beyond the bruise. My cheeks warmed, voice thinner now. "Yeah, makes me isolated, I guess. Hard to lean on anyone." As a queer woman, I'd guarded those edges, but her calm drew it out. The loneliness of pain held alone. That spark hit then, subtle amid her professional tone, a flicker in her gaze, holding mine a second too long. Her lips curved faint, not a smile exactly, but acknowledgement, like she understood the unspoken. My pulse quickened, heat rising low in my belly, unbidden. Attraction, sharp and wrong in this space. Her roll a wall I shouldn't test. I looked away, to the posters on the wall, spines arched in diagrams, but her presence pulled me back. The air thickened, charged with the imbalance, her knowledge, my exposure, the gown a thin barrier. What if that warmth wasn't just empathy? Queer instincts whispered caution. The risk of reading care is more, of boundaries blurring under touch. My guard rose sharp, walls snapping up inside, heart thudding against them. I crossed my arms, the paper gown rustling, grounding in the sound. She noticed, straightening, slight, her expression neutral again. We'll start with a massage to assess. Lie face down on the table when you're ready. Her words pulled us back to safe ground, but the intimacy lingered, heavy as the ache in my back. I nodded, throat tight, the fear coiling tighter, what hands like hers might uncover, what lines they might cross. She turned to the sink then, washing her hands slow, water running steady. The sound filled the room, a rhythm that eased the tension just enough. I climbed onto the table, the vinyl cool under my chest, face settling into the padded hole. My back exposed, gown draped loose, vulnerability settling like dust. She dried her hands, the towel snapping soft, and approached. Deep breaths, she said, voice close now. Her hands hovered, waiting for my nod. The session began with that first press, the world narrowing to her touch. I lay there face down, the table's padding firm under my chest, my face, cradled in the soft ring that let me breathe without strain. The gown draped loose across my hips, leaving my back bare to the room's cool draft, skin prickling where the air touched. Vulnerability settled over me like a weight, heavier than the injury itself. My body splayed open, edges exposed, no walls left to hide behind. I could feel the faint tremor in my arms, braced against the sides, as if holding on might keep the rest from unraveling. The room's quiet amplified everything. The distant hum of the vent, the soft rustle of her preparing, my own breath, shallow and uneven. As a queer woman, these moments always carried an extra layer. The instinct to guard not just flesh, but the stories etched into it, the ones that didn't fit neat charts. Here, stripped down, that guard thinned, leaving me raw under her gaze. Her voice came low then, close enough that it vibrated through the air between us. We'll start with the upper back, work down to the lumbar. I'll use oil to ease the tension. Tell me if anything pulls too sharp. Her words wrapped around me, steady and reassuring, but laced with an undercurrent that made my pulse skip. She moved to the counter, the clink of a bottle faint, then the cap unscrewing with a soft pop. The scent hit next, lavender warmed by something earthier, like cedar, filling the space slow and thick. It seeped into my lungs, calming on the surface but stirring deeper, a reminder of touches I'd known outside these walls, intimate and unhurried. She poured the oil into her palms, the liquid's warmth radiating before it even met my skin. Her hands rubbing together with a slick sound that echoed in my ears. The first questions came as she positioned herself beside the table, her shadow falling cool across my shoulders. Where does it hurt most when you move? Like reaching overhead or twisting to the side? Her tone stayed even, probing the mechanics, but it tugged at old wounds. The kind pain dug up unasked. I hesitated, words sticking in my throat, the table's vinyl warming under my cheek, twisting. Mostly lower, but it shoots up when I lift anything heavy. She hummed soft, acknowledging, then deeper. Any history with this? Old injuries or stress that builds in the muscles? Stress, The word hung, pulling at threads I hadn't meant to unravel. Years of hauling loads alone, the isolation of queer life and straight-edge jobs, the way it all knotted inside. My responses came halting, fragments at first. Yeah, warehouse work and life stuff keeps it tight. More than intended slipped out, the oil's warmth loosening my tongue as much as my limbs, vulnerability bleeding into voice. She leaned in closer for the next question, her breath brushing the nape of my neck, warm and even, sending a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with cold. Does the pain wake you at night or tie into emotions like anxiety flaring it up? Proximity pressed in, her arm near my side, the faint heat from her body cutting the room's chill, her scent mingling with the oils. I swallowed, face heating against the padding, the gown's edge shifting with my shallow breaths. Sometimes, nights are rough, mind races, body follows. It revealed the cracks, the loneliness of empty beds, the fear of seeking touch in a world that questioned it, the way pain amplified the ache of hidden desires. Her silence stretched a beat, then her voice softened further, almost a murmur. That makes sense. Bodies hold on to everything. The words landed intimate, brushing against the fear of boundaries. Her role meant to heal, not to know the queer undercurrents, the longing that flickered unbidden in spaces like this. Tension coiled tighter in her nearness, the air thickening with unspoken weight, my skin alive to every shift. I gripped the table's edge, knuckles paling, fighting the pull of her calm against my guarded edges. What if her questions veered further, peeled back not just muscle but the life I'd armored? The power tilted sharp here, her hands trained to map pain, mine to endure it alone. Queer experiences echoed in my mind, the doctors who dismissed lifestyle factors, the ones whose care felt conditional. This felt different, her proximity a risk that hummed low, desire whispering against ethics. My heart thudded steady, echoing in my ears, as her hands finally made contact. The world narrowed to that first press, oil slick and warm. Her hands met my skin then, palms flat and warm from the oil, pressing into the tight knots along my upper shoulders. The initial pressure came steady, not tentative, thumbs circling deep into the muscle with a firmness that bordered on ache. Relief bloomed first, slow and unexpected, like silt loosening in a river current, the tension easing under her touch, but it mixed with a jolt, sharp and electric, shooting down my spine as she worked a particularly stubborn spot near my shoulder blade. I gasped soft, the sound muffled against the padding, my fingers curling into the table's edge. The oil slicked everything, her skin gliding over mine without friction, heat seeping deeper with each pass. It felt too intimate already, her strength, mapping the ridges of my back, uncovering the grind I'd carried alone. She paused a breath, her voice murmuring close to my ear. Too much? I can lighten it. The check-in was professional, but the whisper of it blurred the lines slight, her breath warm on my neck, stirring the fine hairs there. No, I managed, voice rough. It's good, just intense. She hummed low, acknowledging and resumed, fingers splaying wider now, tracing the length of my trapezius with deliberate strokes. Steady and sure, her movement spoke of practice, each press calculated to unravel without breaking. The room's quiet amplified it all. The soft slide of skin on skin, the faint creak of the table under my shifting weight, my own breath, quickening in rhythm. Sensory overload built layer by layer, the lavender scent thickening in the warmth, the cool air contrasting where her hands left trails of heat. My mind wandered despite the blocks I'd set, forbidden thoughts creeping in like shadows at dusk. What if this touch lingered beyond the knots, her fingers exploring not just pain but the curves beneath? As a queer woman, I'd craved hands like these in safer spaces, nights tangled in sheets, no white coats between us. Here, it twisted wrong, desire flickering against the ethics, her role a barrier I shouldn't breach. Her thumbs dug into a lower knot then, near the bra line of the gown, and my body arched slight, unbidden. Heat pooled low in my belly, traitorous, my skin flushing under the oil sheen. I bit my lip, tasting salt, willing focus back to the relief, but the proximity pulled harder, her hip brushing the table's side, the faint rustle of her coat. Another check-in came, softer this time, her voice threading through the haze. "How's that feel here? Any sharp pulls?" Her hand hovered mid-spine, waiting. The absence of touch, almost worse, a tease that heightened every nerve. "Better," I whispered back, the word catching, my pulse thudding loud in my ears. She pressed on, fingers fanning out along my ribs, the pressure easing into broader sweeps that coaxed deeper breaths from me. The quiet room held us suspended, no clocks ticking, no voices beyond, just this narrowing world of sensation, her steadiness against my unraveling. Body responded despite the mental walls, muscles yielding soft, a shiver running from neck to hips that I hoped she missed. But her touch adjusted, gentler there as if she felt the shift, the unspoken current humming between us. The oil warmed further under friction, her palms gliding smoother now, working down to the mid-back where the bruise hid deepest. Each circle sent ripples of ease mixed with that jolt, pleasure edging too close to the forbidden. My thoughts tangled again, imagining her hands without the gown's drape, the power flipped in some private room, boundaries dissolved in mutual want. "Stop," I told myself, gripping harder, knuckles aching. This was healing, nothing more. Her calm a tool, not an invitation, yet the whispers blurred it. Her questions not just clinical, but laced with care that felt personal, drawing me out. Queer longing resurfaced, sharp in the vulnerability, the fear of misreading empathy as attraction, of her touch crossing into territory marked off limits. She shifted position, one hand bracing my shoulder while the other delved lower, thumbs pressing firm into the lumbar curve. The jolt hit stronger there, relief flooding but laced with heat that spread wide, my thighs tensing against the table. "Breathe through it," she said, voice low and close, her fingers lingering a beat on the edge of the gown. I did, inhaling deep, the scent of her, soap and oil, filling me, body betraying with a soft sigh. Mental blocks cracked under the onslaught, desire whispering, what ethics screamed no. What if she felt it too, this pull in the quiet? The room spun inward, every sense alive, touch dominant, but sound and scent weaving the spell, her presence a gravity I couldn't shake. Then the pressure shifted, her strokes lengthening, intimacy escalating unexpected as her hand brushed the curve of my hip. Fleeting, but electric. The world tilted, boundaries trembling, my heart slamming against ribs like a warning. That brush against my hip lingered in my skin, a ghost of warmth that spread slow, like oil seeping deeper. Her strokes deepened then, thumbs pressing firm along the spine's length, unraveling the core knots with deliberate pulls. Heat built under her palms, radiating from muscle to bone, my body yielding, despite the alarms ringing inside. Each pass sent waves up my back, loosening the grind but igniting something sharper, a flush flush that crept from my neck down. I gripped the table harder, vinyl creaking under my fingers, trying to anchor against the pull. The room's air thickened, heavy with the scent of warmed lavender, her breath steady near my ear as she worked lower. It felt too much, her strength, coaxing surrender, my skin alive and traitorous under the gown's drape. Her hand returned to that curve, lingering now near the hip's swell, fingers splaying wide before retreating. Not accidental this time. The touch hovered, testing the edge where back met thigh, heat pooling there unbidden. My breath hitched, short and sharp, the jolt mixing relief with a spark that twisted low in my gut. She adjusted the gown's fold, her knuckles grazing bare skin, the contact electric in the quiet. I froze, heart thudding loud, echoing through the padding against my cheek. As a queer woman, I'd known touches like this in hidden corners, away from prying eyes, but here it screamed wrong, her coat a reminder of lines drawn sharp. The imbalance pressed in, her hands meant to heal, mine to hold back the flood of want rising despite it all. Conversation shifted then, her voice breaking the rhythm, low and threaded with something softer. You carry a lot in these muscles. Warehouse work, or more than that weighing you down? The question veered personal, away from charts and symptoms, pulling at the life beyond the bruise. I hesitated, face heating against the ring, words tumbling, halting. Yeah, long hours and keeping things close, you know? Not always easy to share the load. She hummed, thumbs circling a spot mid-spine, the vibration humming through me. I get that. Some days, the job pulls at me, too, wanting to fix more than just the body. Her tone warmed, intimate in the hush, like confiding over coffee, not oil-slicked skin. I caught her glance in the mirror across the room, angled just enough to reflect us, her eyes meeting mine, holding steady a beat too long. Brown depths, softened now, flickering with understanding or more. My pulse quickened, slamming against the ribs, heat flushing my chest under the table's cover. Fear spiked sharp. Was this empathy or signals I misread, her calm masking a pull of her own? Queer instincts warred inside, the thrill of connection in guarded spaces, clashing with the dread of overstepping, of her touch veering into forbidden. What if she saw the longing in my tightening muscles, the way my body arched slight toward her hands? Ethics loomed like a wall, her oath against my unraveling, the risk of a glance turning to complaint, to loss for us both. Internal battle raged, desire coiling tight against the rules etched in my mind, boundaries sacred, power tilted wrong. I wanted to sink into it, let her hands map further, dissolve the white coat in imagined nights. But no. This was her domain, my vulnerability a trust not to breach. Her fingers shifted again, subtler now, tracing the spine's dip with a feather-light stroke that belied the earlier firmness. Testing perhaps, the air between us charged, her palm flattening warm against my lower back, thumb brushing the gown's hem. Heat surged, my thighs pressing together against the table, breath shallow as gravel. She leaned closer, elbow grazing my side, the proximity a hum that drowned the vent's whisper. Here feels tighter, old story or recent stress. The words hung, personal again, her touch pausing, expectant, world narrowing to its suspended heat. Desire whispered yes, ethics screamed pull away, my mind clouding with the scent of her skin mingling oil. I swallowed, voice muffled. Both, I think. Life's layers. She pressed on, hand lingering longer this time, the shift subtle but undeniable. boundaries trembling like silt stirred in deep water. My heart raced, fear and want tangling, the mirror's reflection blurring as tension crested. What line would snap first, hers or the one I'd drawn inside? The quiet stretched, her presence a gravity pulling me under, every nerve alight with the unspoken. Then she paused, hands stilling mid-stroke, her voice dropping to a murmur that hung heavy in the air. "Turn over when you're ready. We need to check the front." Her words hung there, soft as the oil still warming my skin, pulling me from the haze of her touch. I lay still a moment longer, breath caught in my chest. The table's pattern pressing into my cheek like an anchor. "Turn over." The request shifted everything. Front exposed now, not just back, vulnerability doubling under her gaze. My muscles tensed anew, the earlier looseness fleeing, replaced by a knot low in my gut. Slowly, I pushed up, the gown slipping slight, crinkling against my thighs as I rolled to my side. Her hands hovered near, ready to steady if needed, but she didn't touch. The space between us charged, waiting. I settled on my back, arms at sides, the vinyl cool now against my spine, heart thudding visible under the thin paper. Her eyes met mine again, calm but deeper, like she'd seen the flicker in me, the unspoken pull. She stepped closer, bottle in hand, pouring fresh oil into her palms with that same slick rub. Her fingers paused then, mid-motion, as if reconsidering the path, voice softening, unexpected, almost a whisper. "You're holding tension everywhere. It's beautiful how strong you are, though." The comment landed wrong, crossing from clinical to personal, her gaze tracing my collarbone a beat too long. Not about the muscle, but the skin beneath, the way it flushed under oil and air. Heat surged in my face, my body freezing solid, every nerve locking as her words sank in. Heart thudded loud now, slamming against ribs like a drum in the quiet room, echoing in my ears. Beautiful. The word twisted, intimate in this space. Her role meant for assessment, not admiration. I stared at the ceiling, tiles blurring, mind racing with pushback sharp and fierce. Attraction warred inside, her calm drawing me like gravity, but rules loomed larger, ethics carved in oaths, power tilted her way. As a queer woman, I'd navigated glances before, the thrill of connection in shadowed bars, but here it screamed risk. What if this was invitation, her voice softening to test the line, fingers itching to cross? Or worse, my misread, turning care into complaint, her career cracked on my word. The imbalance pressed heavier, me bare, her clothed in authority, the gown no shield against fallout. Desire whispered, lean in, let her hands map the front, dissolve boundaries in shared heat. But no, push back, weigh the want against the wrong, the queer longing tangled in professional chains. She leaned over then, palms pressing light into my shoulders from above, oil trailing cool before warming. Her expression shifted, eyes flicking away quick, then back with a murmur. "Sorry if that came out wrong, just noticing how you carry it all." Apology, or invitation masked, the air thickening around us like silt stirred in deep water. Her breath brushed my forehead, close now, the scent of her skin cutting through lavender, pulling tighter the coil in. My chest. I swallowed, throat dry as gravel, words failing under the weight. "It's fine," I lied, voice thin, but my body betrayed, pulse racing under her palms, skin prickling where they rested. The touch stayed light, but lingered, thumbs circling slow at my neck, the pressure easing but the intent blurring. Fear crested then, climax sharp in the narrowing room, power dynamic cracking like thin ice underfoot. What if her hands slipped lower, past shoulders to chest, the gown no barrier to intent? Queer instincts screamed retreat. The vulnerability too raw, her calm a veil over something hungry. I'd trusted doctors before, only to face dismissal, the casual erasure of my edges in their notes. This felt different, charged, the line trembling, her apology hanging ambiguous, inviting response or retreat. My mind spun scenarios, her leaning closer, lips brushing ear with more than words, or pulling back abrupt, the session shattered, heart hammered relentless, heat flooding limbs, desire clashing with dread in a storm I couldn't name. The air hummed thick, every breath shared, her presence overwhelming the vent's faint whisper. She straightened, slight, hands stilling on my collarbone, eyes searching mine for a signal. The pause stretched eternal, world tilting in the balance, boundaries fraying at the edges. Then she exhaled soft, stepping back a fraction, voice returning to even. I think that's enough for today. We'll build from here next time. Session ended abrupt, her words cutting the tension like a door slamming shut. I sat up slow, the room spinning faint, oil slick skin humming with what hadn't been said. I sat there a moment, the table's edge digging into my palms, world steadying slow as her words echoed. Enough for today. The abrupt end left the air thick, unresolved, her hands already rinsing clean at the sink, water rushing like a barrier between us. She turned back, towel drying her fingers, eyes meeting mine, brief. Calm again, but laced with that flicker, the one that blurred lines. Take it easy the next few days, ice if it flares, and call if you need anything. Her parting words hung ambiguous, the anything stretching wide, personal beyond the script. Need. What did she mean? Relief or more? I nodded, throat tight, unable to parse the warmth in her tone, the way it pulled at the edges I'd guarded. She handed me a card, her fingers brushing mine light. Electric still from the oil's residue. Follow up in a week unless sooner. The door opened then, her silhouette framing the hall's light, and she was gone, leaving the room colder, emptier. Silence wrapped around me, heavy as the gown's paper now sticking to my damp skin. I slid off the table, legs shaky, the vinyl releasing with a soft peel that echoed too loud. Dressing came slow, each movement deliberate. My shirt catching on the oil-slick spots along my back. Jeans zipped up rough against thighs, still humming, the fabric rough where her touch had lingered. Skin thrummed alive, every nerve awake. The heat from her palms fading but not gone, like embers under ash. I avoided the mirror, not ready to see the flush on my neck, the way my posture shifted, looser yet guarded. The gown crumpled into the bin, a rustle that broke the quiet. But my body held the session's echo, muscles eased, but deeper tension coiled, fresh. As a queer woman, vulnerability like this always left marks, the exposure stirring old fears of being seen too clear, too raw. I gathered my things, bag slung over shoulder, the weight grounding me as I stepped to the door. Walking out blurred the hall's edges, fluorescent lights streaking faint, my legs unsteady from more than the lingering ache. Not just pain, but the pull. Her proximity's ghost making each step waver. Heat low in my belly uncoiling slow. The waiting room opened up. Other women glancing up brief, their eyes holding their own secrets. But I felt marked, skin still warm under clothes. Outside hit sharp. Afternoon sun cutting through clouds, air thick with city grit. but it couldn't wash the scent of lavender clinging to me. I leaned against the clinic wall a beat, breath steadying. The brick, rough against my palm, anchoring the spin in my head. Legs trembled faint, not from weakness, but the intimacy's aftershock, her hands' memory pressing where no one touched. The street bustled past, cars humming, pedestrians brushing close. But I stood apart, world tilting from that room's gravity. Queer longing resurfaced then, sharp and unbidden, the kind I'd buried under work's grind, nights alone with echoes of past loves dismissed. Her calm had cracked it open. The attraction, a risk in white-coated spaces, where desire tangled with distrust. Reflection pulled me homeward, steps dragging on the sidewalk, mind replaying the brush of hip, the softened voice. Was it real, that spark, or my projection onto her steadiness? The pull tugged insistent, a thread connecting my guarded life to her knowing touch. But ethics loomed larger, boundaries not mine to test, hers sworn to hold. As a queer woman in straight-edged systems, I'd learned the cost. Misreads leading to judgment, care turning conditional on fitting scripts. Yet self-trust wavered now, the session's haze blurring what I knew. Report the ambiguity or let it fade as fantasy. Decision points sharpened in the walk's rhythm. Trust my instincts that screamed caution or chase the what-if of mutual want, consent rewriting rules? Power's tilt scared me most, her authority a shield, my vulnerability the crack where longing slipped through. I wanted agency back, to name the line without shame. But the fear held, queer history whispering of exposures that scarred deeper than bruises. Lingering sensory memory clung through the evening, her palm's warmth replaying in quiet moments. Thumbs circling knots, breath on neck, the jolt low and electric. Shower water ran hot, but couldn't rinse. It skin flushing under spray as if she touched still. Lying in bed later, sheets cool against back, the ease she wrought mixed with unrest, body humming soft in the dark. Her calluses' texture echoed, rough yet sure, stirring nights I'd craved similar without the weight of wrong. It settled like silt in still water, the memory a current, pulling at resolve, desire and dread tangling tight. Days passed after that, the bruise fading faint under mirror's light, but internal conflict brewed sharper, her card burning in my drawer, the pull refusing quiet. Days blurred into a week, the card staring up from my drawer each morning, edges worn from my thumb's trace. I paced the kitchen, coffee cooling untouched, the bruise on my back now a faint shadow undershirt, but the pull lingered sharper. Follow-up loomed, her voice on the line a risk I circled like a drain. Pick up the phone, let it ring out, dilemma twisting my gut, voice trembling before I even dialed. What to say? Report the blur, the touch that veered too close, turn her warmth into warning, or chase the unspoken, name the spark without shattering the quiet. As a queer woman, I'd bounced edges before, the fear of misstep echoing in every guarded glance, but this felt heavier, her authority a mirror to my own hidden wants. I waited all that afternoon, sitting on the bed's edge, sheets rumpled from restless nights. Reporting meant safety, lines redrawn firm, her career checked, my vulnerability validated in some office echo. But the connection tugged, her softened words replaying. Beautiful, strong, the way her eyes held mine in the mirror. Was it breach or bridge? The ambiguity gnawed, stirring empathy for her side. The isolation of her role, hands that healed but couldn't hold. The same queer caution I'd worn like skin. She mirrored my fears. Power's tilt scaring us both. Desire whispering in sterile rooms where it shouldn't. I'd felt dismissed before, care conditional on silence. What if she faced the same? Her touch a slip from loneliness, not intent. The card's print blurred under my finger. Dr. Ellis, numbers like a lifeline or noose. Report and close the door, connect and risk the fall. Breath shallow, I dialed finally, the ring stretching eternal, my free hand gripping knee, knuckles pale. She answered quick, voice even but warmer than charts allowed. It's me, from the session. Words tumbled halting, the line humming between us, my pulse thudding in ears. I need to talk about boundaries, that comment, the touch. It blurred for me. Silence stretched, then her exhale soft, waited. I crossed a line. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. No denial, just acknowledgement, her tone laced with the same guard I knew, empathy threading through, mirroring the pull we'd both felt. We talked then, voices low, unpacking the haze. Her fatigue from long days, my guarded life amplifying every brush. Queer threads wove in unasked, shared nods to the weight of unseen lives, the fear of signals misread in straight-edged spaces. Choice settled in that call, clarity over closure, my voice steadying as I spoke my piece. No report, but boundaries named, agency reclaimed in this simple act of addressing, not fleeing. It eased the coil in my chest, her apology a bridge we both stepped back from. Respect hardening the line, empathy lingered, for her position as much as mine, the mirror of fears. Powers imbalance, a shared shadow in our worlds. Hanging up left me lighter, the phone warm in my palm, bruise faded to yellow under mirror's light that night. I stood taller, shoulders loose, the grinds echo distant now. Stronger stance took root, vulnerability not a weakness, but a step toward trust earned, boundaries held without shame. The pull faded to memory, a chapter closed on my terms, queer resilience blooming in the quiet after. The line went dead, that chapter sealed, boundaries intact and clearer for the naming. If this tugged at your own edges, subscribe for more raw Sapphic stories that dig deep. Share in comments. What's your boundary tale?